They were only between the ages of 4 and 5, 10 children, giggling and glowing with excitement, each one wearing a tiny backpack with colorful African animal prints, holding packed lunches prepared by loving hands. What would Worker discover next will shock you. If you're just tuning into this channel, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also tell us where you are watching. It was supposed to be a joyful day, just a simple field trip to explore the wonders of Mwana Forest Preserve, a place where butterflies danced in the air and birds sang stories into the trees. The children were students at Bikoma Early Learning Center, a quiet kindergarten located in the sleepy outskirts of Kasima Village. It was a kind of school where everyone knew each other, and parents trusted that their little ones were in good hands. But by the time the sun set behind the tall trees of the preserve, not a single child had returned. There were no footprints, no screams, no sounds, just an empty school van, parked at the forest trailhead, its doors wide open, as if something or someone had taken them. Not violently, not hurriedly, just vanished. The children had been accompanied by 2 adults, Ms. Nia, the bright and cheerful head teacher, loved by every child she taught, and Mr. Juma, the quiet science teacher who had once been a forest ranger himself. He was known for his deep knowledge of plants, birds, and trail systems. Parents had not worried when he led the field trip. If anyone knew the forest, it was Mr. Juma. There was also one parent volunteer that day, Mama Thandi, the mother of a girl named Zanil, who never went anywhere without her pink bunny lunchbox. The plan was simple. They would take a short hike along the Wamba Trail, stop for a small picnic by the river bend, and return to the school by 2:30 p.m. The trip had been approved. Permission slip signed. Weather perfect. Everything felt normal. Until it was not. At 3 p.m., when the van did not return, school staff called Ms. Nia's phone. No answer. They tried Mr. Juma. Straight to voicemail. By 3:45 p.m., a few parents had arrived to pick up their children, only to find confusion in the air. A silent parking lot. Unease began to settle like dust. At 4:10 p.m., the school contacted the local Mwana Rangers outpost. By 4:30, 2 rangers had arrived at the Wamba trailhead, where the group was scheduled to hike. The van was still there, doors flung open, untouched. Inside were 10 small water bottles, 2 teacher bags, and a clipboard with a list of children. Everything appeared intact, except there were no people. The trail was quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. By 6 p.m., emergency teams had been called. Search and rescue volunteers, locals from nearby villages, and even off-duty officers began forming human chains and calling out names deep into the woods. But no answer came. The only sound was the forest breathing. By morning, more than 50 searchers had gathered. They combed the area. Dogs sniffed for scent. Drones flew overhead. Elders from the village came and said prayers at the forest edge. But the woods refused to give anything back. Not a shoe, not a cry, not even broken branches to mark a trail. As the sun rose higher, it was clear this was not going to be a normal search. On the second day, a young boy from the village, Baraka, who had joined the volunteers, spotted something strange high in a tree, nearly 10 meters above the ground. Tangled in the branches was a small backpack, pink, torn, faded. The name tag on it read, Zanil Thandi. The bag was empty, except for a crushed juice box and a drawing of a tree, folded neatly inside. Just beneath that tree was a small clearing, circular and too perfect. 7 pairs of tiny shoes were placed in an arc, lined up as if arranged by someone with care. The shoes were clean, with no signs of struggle, no dirt, no panic, and in the center of the clearing, made from tightly woven sticks and dry grass, was something that looked like a nest. Large, carefully made, primitive. Inside it were carvings, symbols no one could read. Some said they looked like old tribal markings. Others claimed they resembled something not human at all. The elders were called, but none of them could explain what they saw. The area had no sound, no birds, no wind. Even the dogs refused to enter the circle, whimpering and pulling away. The air was heavy, thick with something no one could name. And then came the sound, a soft giggle, faint, but unmistakably close. Not playful, Not right. The search team froze. The sound faded as quickly as it came, as if the forest had sighed and whispered something back. The next morning, authorities launched the largest search operation in regional history. Local radio stations put out alerts. National media picked up the story. Kindergarten class vanishes in Moana Forest. But with each day, hope faded. 3 days in, a new clue emerged: drawings. Simple crayon sketches, caught in bushes, lie in mud, stuck to tree trunks. One by one, they were found: stick figures, suns, flowers. At first, they looked like normal child art, but then came the details. Each sketch showed a hole in the ground, with ladders, tunnels, and children inside. In one drawing, a little girl stood beside a dark figure with no face. In another, trees had eyes. Were these just drawings, or were they a message? The community was in shock. Parents refused to sleep. Many gathered at the school each evening, holding candles, whispering prayers, hoping it was all some strange misunderstanding, that the children had wandered off and would return smiling. But no one returned. 1 week later, deep in the eastern edge of the preserve, a ranger came across a piece of cloth near a rock ledge. It was part of Ms. Nia's scarf, red and woolen, easy to recognize. It was tied to a tree branch, as if someone had left it there to be found. But again, no footprints, no struggle, just fabric and silence. Next to the scarf was a sheet of paper from the classroom's roll call notebook. Half torn, the ink was smudged, but a few names were still visible: Zanil, Baraka, O, and then it stopped. As fear grew, so did the whispers. Some said it was a kidnapping planned by outsiders. Others spoke of an old curse tied to the land. And then there were those who pointed to Mr. Juma, the soft-spoken science teacher who had once worked in the forest, and who now, strangely, could not be found either. Had he been taken, or was he the one who led them into the forest? The truth was still hidden in the shadows of the trees. But the forest was not speaking. Not yet. It had been nearly 2 weeks since the children vanished. The people of Kasima village no longer spoke with hope. They whispered with fear. The Moana Forest, once a place of learning and beauty, now felt alive with something darker. Mothers crossed themselves whenever they passed its edges. Children were no longer allowed to play outside after sunset. Even the local hunters refused to go beyond the southern trails. The search had continued with determination. Every rock, stream, and ravine was examined, and yet the forest gave nothing. But then it began to whisper. On the 15th morning, just after sunrise, a group of villagers found something new: crayons. A handful of broken, colored crayons lying near the mouth of a narrow cave on the forest's eastern ridge. They were damp, covered in dirt, but undeniably recent. Just inside the entrance of the cave, pinned against a rock with a small stone, was a drawing. It showed children, 10 small figures, sitting in a circle underground, with a single word scrawled across the top: waiting. The searchers stepped back. This was no longer a rescue mission. This was something else. The authorities blocked off the area, but the news had already spread. Crowds gathered at the forest's edge, praying, crying, shouting for answers. Inside the cave, rangers pushed deeper, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The walls were narrow, the air damp. Roots hung from above like veins. About 20 meters in, the team found something that made them stop in their tracks. Handprints. Tiny ones. Dozens of them, smeared across the stone walls what looked like dark clay, or something far worse. They were not placed neatly. They were dragged, rushed, frantic, like the children had been trying to climb out, or trying to reach something. On the floor were torn pages from school books, a pencil snapped in half, and a soft cloth pouch with the embroidered name Baraka stitched on it. But no bodies, no voices, just a stale smell of forgotten air. Outside, the village elders were growing restless. One of them, an old man named Baba Tano, finally broke his silence. He remembered something the rest had forgotten. Many years ago, before the preserve was declared a safe learning space, the land was known by a different name: Shujaya Chini, the warrior beneath, a place believed to be cursed. Generations ago, Entire families had gone missing near that same forest. Some returned days later, confused and silent, with no memory. Others were never seen again. The legend spoke of a spirit beneath the trees, not a ghost, but something older that fed on attention. That grew stronger every time someone looked for it. And now it has 10 children. The investigation took a new turn. Authorities began to question Mr. Juma more seriously. But there was a problem. No one could find him. Since the day of the disappearance, not a single person had seen or heard from him. His house was empty. His mobile phone had been switched off. His bag, watch, and shoes were still inside, but he was gone. More questions emerged. Why had he insisted on choosing Wamba Trail? Why did he carry a second notebook no one knew about? And why did villagers remember seeing him walking alone toward the forest 2 nights before the trip? His past was pulled apart, and what they found shook everyone. Mr. Juma, it turned out, had not always been a teacher. 10 years ago, he had lived among a group of isolationists, an underground commune called Nyambiagiza, or the House of Shadows. They lived off-grid, deep within the mountains, and were known for their unusual rituals and beliefs. No one had heard of the commune for years. Many believed it had been disbanded, but Juma's connection raised new fears. Had he led the children to someone? Had this entire field trip been a trap? On the 20th day, a group of searchers discovered a narrow tunnel beneath the roots of an ancient baobab tree. The tunnel was hidden under a patch of stones that had clearly been moved recently. Inside, the air was dense, unnatural. The walls were smooth, carved with care. This was no animal den. This was built. The team descended carefully, torches flickering. What they found inside shook even the most experienced rangers. A large chamber, wide enough to fit 20 people. On the walls were drawings, childlike but not playful. They showed tunnels, faces and shadows, and a massive eye drawn again and again in red ink. Some of the pictures were fresh. Others faded with time. A few included what looked like numbers counting days. One had 49 tallies scratched into stone. There were toys scattered on the ground. A small cloth doll, a plastic car, a pencil case shaped like a lion, and in the far corner, lined up neatly, were 10 small blankets, each folded, each placed with care. But still no children, only silence, as if they had once been there and vanished again, or were never meant to be found. Rumors grew like fire. Some believed the children had been taken by those still loyal to the commune. Others claimed the forest was alive, that it had opened, swallowed the kids, and closed behind them. One night, a woman named Mama Zuri reported hearing laughter echoing outside her window. She lived near the edge of the forest. When she stepped outside, she found nothing, but her daughter's old-school shoe had been moved from the shelf to the doorstep. Another man, a construction worker, said he saw a figure standing between the trees, tall, motionless, and watching. When he approached, it disappeared, leaving behind only a single crayon lying in the dirt. The authorities were at a breaking point. Each clue led to more questions. The villagers were scared, the families desperate, and Mr. Juma, the one person whom I hold answers, was still missing. The government announced a pause in the search, citing danger and lack of leads. But the parents refused. Every evening, they lit candles at the school gates, 10 small lanterns for 10 small souls. They prayed, they waited, and then, on the 49th day, something happened. A new worker, clearing ground for a farm project on the northern edge of Preserve, noticed something odd. A hollow tree, its trunk blackened and half-rotted. Inside the hollow was a folded piece of paper. The writing was faint, almost rubbed out by time and moisture, but it was written in crayon, and the words were clear. "We are still here. Please find us." There were no names, no drawings, just that sentence, written by a child hand. The authorities rushed to the scene. The paper was tested. It matched the crayons found in the cave weeks earlier. It was real, fresh, which meant at least one of them might still be alive. For the first time in weeks, hope returned, but it came mixed with fear. The search teams, now under tighter supervision, were deployed again with new urgency. They scanned the entire northern ridge of Moana Forest inch by inch. Dogs barked at invisible threats. Radios crackled with static, and the deeper they searched, the heavier the forest felt. Until, on the 53rd day, a breakthrough. One of the searchers, a young man named Musa, was clearing dense undergrowth when his foot hit something solid beneath the soil. Wood. He called for help. Together, the crew unearthed a large wooden slab, covered in thick vines and brush. As they pulled it open, it revealed a tunnel, sealed shut for who knows how long. But the air that came out wasn't old. It was warm, and it smelled of crayons, fruit, and moldy bread. They had found something close. The team descended with caution. The tunnel was narrow, the walls again smoothed out unnaturally. Deeper and deeper they went, until they entered a cavernous chamber. And what they saw inside would haunt them forever. The walls were covered in children's drawings, not pinned, but drawn directly on the stone. They were everywhere. Pages of memory, pain, and waiting. There were pictures of teachers, of animals, of something that looked like a large eye surrounded by trees. But more than anything, there were pictures of hope. Children standing at doorways. Children waving. Children holding signs that said things like, "I want to go home. We are here. Miss Nia is sleeping." And then the most heartbreaking discovery, 10 small mats, lined up against one side of the chamber. Some still had blankets. Others, old toys. Each mat was paired with a small bag or shoe neatly placed. A sign of order. A sign that someone, maybe one of the children, had tried to keep things together. But there was no one in the room. No children. No Mr. Juma. Only traces of life. And a chilling truth. They had been here. For days. For weeks. Possibly longer. As officers moved deeper, they found another passage, leading to a smaller, locked room. It had a wooden door reinforced with nails. When they opened it, they found something they could not explain. A wall of names. 10 names, written in a child's handwriting. Again and again, sometimes spelled right, sometimes wrong. But written like a chant, like a prayer, like a memory they didn't want to lose. And in the center of the floor was something even worse. A torn, faded red scarf belonging to Miss Nia, tied around a stone with dried flowers placed beside it. Was it grave? Was it a goodbye? No one could say. But the energy in the room was heavy with mourning. Now the story took a darker turn. The authorities focused once again on Mr. Juma. A secret investigation revealed that he had recently purchased supplies in bulk, dried food, ropes, batteries, children's vitamins, from a shop outside the district. And, chillingly, his fingerprints were found inside the hidden cavern. Not just once. Everywhere. On the tunnel walls. On the crayons. Even on the wooden door. The theory grew darker. Had he taken the children? Had he prepared the space? Was he trying to isolate them? Protect them? Or was it something more sinister? On the 57th day, a woman walking near a village borehole spotted a man slumped near the water tank. Dirty, barefoot, eyes hollow with exhaustion. It was Juma. His body was thin. He hadn't eaten in days. But his voice calm. When taken into custody, he told a strange story. He said, "I took them there to protect them. Something in the forest. Watches. It waits. And it chooses. I thought I could stop it. I thought I could control it. But I was wrong. The forest is alive." He refused to say more. Not even where the children were now. Not if they were alive. He just repeated, over and over, "I tried, but it was already too late." Authorities were divided. Some believed he was mad. Others believed he had seen something beyond explanation. But he was charged, held without bail, and the search for the children continued. But no more signs were found. Just shadows. The town's grief. Months passed. The story had spread far beyond the village. News outlets called them the lost class of Moana Forest. Some blamed cults. Others spoke of supernatural legends. But the families had no answers. Only silence. And silence was the worst pain of all. Mothers lit candles in their homes each night. Fathers placed toys on porches. Empty rooms were left untouched. At the Bukoma Early Learning Center, 10 empty desks remained, never filled again. A wall of portraits was placed at the gate. Beside it, a line of shoes, small, worn, tied together, one for each child. 1 year later, on the 1-year anniversary, a vigil was held. All of Kasima gathered. People sang, prayed, wept, and then, just as the last song ended, a child's drawing was found. Not old, new, taped to the side of the memorial wall. It showed 10 smiling children holding hands beneath a tree. And at the bottom, written in crayon, "We are not lost. We are listening." The handwriting matched the other notes. It was them. Somewhere out there, they were still trying to speak. Still waiting. Still watching. A year had passed. The forest had swallowed 10 children without a trace. Still refused to give a single clear answer. Only a few drawings. A few whispers. A few chills in the night. Some said it was imagination. Others said maybe 1 or 2 children survived and left those notes. But the villagers? They believed something deeper. That the children were never really gone. They were still there. Somewhere. Watching. Waiting. After that last crayon drawing was found at the memorial, "We are not lost. We are listening." The entire country paid attention again. The government sealed off the forest permanently. Public access was banned. Cameras were installed. Armed patrols guarded every trail. But for those who lived nearby, they knew the forest had not gone silent. They said, on still nights, when the wind stopped and the trees stood perfectly still, you could hear children's laughter echoing between the trees, the sound of a small shoe falling, or the soft scratch of crayon on stone, coming from underground. Some now believed Mr. Juma was not mad. He knew something ancient lived in the woods, something forgotten, something buried, and maybe he had tried to protect the children, or maybe he had helped hide them. No one knew. To this day, every year on May 4th, outside the Bukoma Early Learning School, the parents return. They bring 10 pairs of shoes. Each pair is polished, neatly tied, gently placed in a straight line along the school fence. Some are brand new. Some are old, worn out from play. But all of them carry the same message. We have not forgotten. And the mother of one little girl, who still sleeps hugging her daughter's favorite teddy bear, every night whispers the same words into the dark. If you're out there, just send one sign. I'm still here. Your room is just the way you left it, and your soul still lives in mine. What if that drawing, was it fresh? What if the children truly were watching? Then maybe, just maybe, someday, inside another hollow tree, someone will find one last message. We're coming back.